this video, we're going to be talking about wastewater treatment. So I'm going to go over a couple of definitions, and then we'll talk about the wastewater treatment process. So the definition of wastewater is any type of water that's been used by or contaminated by humans. So just running the tap in your sink without adding soap or even putting your hands under the water, it's considered used by humans, and it has to go through the water treatment process. There are two classifications of water coming from residential homes. One is black water, one is gray water. Black water is urine and feces, and gray water is any kind of washing or something that comes from the washing machine, showers, things like that. The sewer system is that underground piping system that all wastewater flows into, that then goes to the waste treatment facility and then back out to large bodies of water. For us, that would be Lake Ontario. Stormwater runoff is that precipitation, so rain or snow melt, that runs off of roofs, off of roads, off of fields, and goes into the sewer system, where it joins in with this wastewater underground process and goes to that wastewater treatment facility. With stormwater runoff, that's where it can collect things from the surface of the earth, right? So you're going to get things like salt from the winter, you're going to get pesticides from farms, you're going to get animal feces, chemicals, oils from cars and things. So that stormwater runoff, all of those contaminants are being put into your wastewater. So all of the wastewater from residential, industrial, and stormwater, there should be an R there, goes to the waste treatment facility. So it's collected from homes and apartments and any kind of residential land use, any kind of industry, and that stormwater runoff, it goes through that sewage system and it ends up at the wastewater treatment facility. Then once it goes through the process of treatment here, it moves on to the river, and then the cycle continues. All right, so when it gets to the wastewater treatment facility, there are different stages of processing that it goes through. So that preliminary is where large debris is taken out. So sticks and garbage and larger objects are sort of filtered out with a big, large, like sort of bar filter that moves across the pool of water and pushes that stuff to one side, and those items go to the landfill. The primary treatment is where they allow for the wastewater to sit for a long period of time, and those materials, larger pieces of debris that didn't get pulled out during the preliminary treatment, they settle to the bottom. And it's actually called like the sludge. It just sort of sits there. And they skim off the water off the top, and it continues its way through the process. That sludge and the water that's with that sludge waits a little bit longer for processing later. Secondary treatment is you're going to have bacteria and organic material that's still in the water, and it might be very finite. You might not be able to see it. So what they do is they actually add oxygen to encourage organisms to grow, so little tiny organisms, to eat the organic matter. So they kind of create conditions where they kind of put more things into the water to eat those tiny little microorganisms that they wouldn't be able to see and filter out. And then in that final treatment is when they're going to use those chemicals to then kill those organisms that they sort of created during the secondary treatment. And at that point, you should have filtered water that can then continue on back into your river and your lakes, and then back through the cycle of coming to your homes and industry. The last process is back here where we had that primary treatment, where we had that sludge that settled to the bottom. We process those solids. Now, a majority of those solids are human feces and waste, but those things are filled with nutrients, and they can be processed and used as fertilizer and put back into sort of the ecosystem. And so they do a process of drying and then shipping that waste to where it's needed. So we hear a lot about water conservation, and you want to conserve water, conserve water. And one of the things that we want to consider is that if we decrease our use of clean water, we also decrease the amount of wastewater we produce. So the amount of processing that the water has to go through. So we think about using the shower, right? And the amount of water that we use by just literally standing there and enjoying the heat of the water. You know, we've increased our use of water, which means there's more waste we're producing, which means there's more water that needs to be processed and put through that wastewater treatment. So if you decrease the amount of actual water that you use, you also decrease the amount of waste that you produce.